Jeff Ogilvy survives Wingfoot.
Now the moment Aaron Badley has waited for.
Gary Webb is the 5-time Australian Open champion.
Golf at its best by one of the best in golf, Peter Thompson.
Stand in front of a crowd like this today and win the PGA Championship is pretty special.
He's done it at last. Greg Norman.
Matt Jones gets his name on the Stonehaven Cup.
Leishman to 11 under. Now we've got a new leader, kids.
Here it is, Adam Scott, a life changer.
Coming up next, you have unrestricted access to golf across Australia and the world. Thanks to Golf Australia, we're going inside the ropes. Subscribe now on iTunes or your favourite podcast app, or head to golf.org.au.
G'day everybody, welcome to the show. It is Inside the Ropes, episode number, I was lose sight of this, Hazy. Is it number 34 or 35? I think it's 30. Is it 35?
Roll with 35.
No, it's 35 we're up to. 35 it is.
What an informative start we're off to.
There's a professional start to the program.
We're away.
Lovely to see you. How are you going?
I'm really well, thanks,
and for
mate.
the first time in 2018, she's been all over the place, so it's a joy to have access to Allie Whitaker in the studio. How lovely to see you.
It is so nice to see you guys. I've been tuning in from afar, listening to Hazy make wrong prediction after wrong prediction, which is fun.
Well, he hasn't got it wrong yet. He's getting, as every week goes by, he's getting closer to getting it wrong, but he hasn't got it wrong just yet.
Okay, all right.
But
I'm having a cheeky dig.
This is becoming the opening.
It's out of love.
It's the opening weekly narrative now. How uncomfortable Hazy was watching Tiger Woods over the previous weekend.
Well, for the first time, I must have come a long way because I was actually disappointed that he didn't threaten. And I was when
he did threaten.
Well, when he hooked his drive up 16, I was actually
Were you really?
Yeah, I've come that far in my rehab.
Okay.
Yeah.
I reckon one bloke who won't be upset about seeing the return of the great man, even though it means he might have to lock horns with him at some stage in the not-too-distant future. And he's going to be with us right throughout the show, but we will dedicate the middle part of the program today just talking about his favourite subject, and that's him. It is Lucas Herbert who joins us on the show. How are you, young fella?
Thanks, man. That's a great wrap to start me off with.
Well, we feel like you've been part of the show since we've returned, because you've been having these blues with Clayton.
Participate on Twitter for you guys.
Do we want to talk about the ball with him? We have to go at some stage.
No, we'll do the ball, but we'll do it in the middle session.
Yeah, we'll do it in the middle session.
We'll let him warm up a bit.
How excited are you about the return? And I think the return is he's returned now. I don't think anybody, unless some terrible calamity visits itself upon him, as a young pro, sticking his toe in the water in the international professional game now. How excited are you by the return of Tiger Woods?
It's an interesting one. I've been reminded a couple of times by people who I said I thought he was done, and I think which week would it have been? I think it would have been that week of the Valspar. I thought I was probably wrong there, and so I've been reminded of that a couple of times by some people. As far as my thoughts on it, I think I see it from a different point of view. If Tiger stays around in the game, we're playing for probably double the purses every week. So I'm quite happy for him to keep hanging around.
Yes.
And you look at the TV ratings, they're ridiculous with Tiger playing. And I think I've probably really got hooked on golf to the point where I was noticing this stuff after Tiger was maybe that 2013 season when he was when he played really well again. I would have seen it then, but back in 08, 07 in his really vintage days, I wasn't really privy to it all. But seeing now how, there's Twitter accounts just set up just to where's Tiger today. Just the whole fanfare around him of what he's doing, what's going on, where he is, the TV broadcasts like that. It's like, what's the leader doing? I can see that Tiger's got 7-iron in from the right side of the fairway and whatever. But what's the guy who's leading the tournaments doing? It's absolutely crazy how much the Tiger effect has on tournaments. And it's like, I'm nearly thinking it's going to get to the point where we're going to have like a Tiger series through the year of events where it's like 15 events that Tiger plays that are worth a third more in the purse. And then every other event's like, all right, we haven't got Tiger in the field, so what else can we do?
Some TV executives just listened to that, Al, and thought, what a great idea.
That's so true.
It is
I'm writing notes as we speak.
It is unbelievable the effect he has on the game. But I think my only hope for him is that he doesn't retire when it's too late. He retires when when he's still playing well and he goes out, when he wants to. I hope he does that rather than he's into the ground and he's finishing last at the Masters every year like a few guys tend to do, and he decides to hang it up then.
He's gearing up for the Champions Tour, isn't he? Is that what he's done?
Probably. On a similar note, I remember is it the Twitter handle, is it GC Tiger Tracker or
it's something
Tiger
like that?
Tiger Tracker or something like that?
Yep.
And I was reading through it the other day, and at one point in time, it mentioned that he said he was feeling a little warm, so he took his jumper off.
Yeah.
And it got down to the point of a
my
costume, like legitimately said he took his light sweater off because he was a bit warm. And I was like, what is happening to the world? I mean, I'm all for Tiger Trackers, but I was like, oh, wow, that is some serious
detail. That's just the insanity that he brings to the game of golf. Which is great. Yeah. As a player, I think it's great. We've got to get some more interest in the game.
I'm going to start doing that to you, Lucas. When I'm out on course with Lucas next, I'm going to be like, Lucas got a little warm today, so he took his vest off.
He was a little parched, so he took a sip out of his well-nourished, hydrated water and Gatorades combination.
That's it.
So here we go again. Last week we started the show, and we'll talk more, obviously, about him in a moment, but we started the show last week, Hazy, focusing almost completely and exclusively on Tiger to the extent that we didn't even mention Paul Casey. Oh, yeah, that's right, he won the tournament. But this week, with all due respect to Paul Casey, the significance of the winner and the way that he won it is actually a story within itself. Had Tiger not been at the Arnold Palmer, then we would be spending 20 minutes talking about how the hell Rory McIlroy did what he did this week. It's incredible.
Yeah, more swords for you to fall on, Andy and myself.
Absolutely.
I think we may or may not have copped a bit of a spray on Twitter for our thoughts on Rory last week. But I don't think we, would be seen as irresponsible in our thoughts last week. No one in their right mind could have predicted what Rory just did. And as I've mentioned to you off air, 100 putts he had for 72 holes. I don't know what your stats are, Lucas, but that is ridiculous. And it's triply ridiculous given that he couldn't hit, he was averaging closer to 2 putts.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe even more in some rounds.
Oh, his ranking the 2 previous weeks were like 145 and 147 in putting in the 2 previous tournaments.
Sorry, hold 54 out of 54 inside 10 feet.
It was unbelievable.
I think Tiger and him were like 54 and 54 and out of 54 and 51 out of 51 inside 10 feet.
Yep.
We're sitting here with 2
I'm
pros.
keen to ask them both about this.
Yeah. We once played in my boys' trip, count the putts competitions, and I had over 2 rounds, I had 65, which I didn't think was anything special. I won the count the putts from the second place getter by 7, and the third place getter had 80. So the average golfer is having, roughly 80 putts for 2 rounds. 100 putts for 4 rounds. It's almost inconceivable when you hit the ball the way he does. That's a dangerous combination. And it sounds like I'm going back on what we said last week. We said he was not a shadow of himself that he was 3 or 4 years ago when he looked, like the next coming. And now, all of a sudden, I can't see a turnaround like that in my memory that's happened so quickly.
You're not the only one. Johnny Miller said on Friday, I think, something along the lines of, Rory McIlroy would have won so many more tournaments if he hadn't have gone to the gym for the last 5 years. Proceeded to hit it to about 2 foot in front of him as well.
Yeah. What are your best putting stats to you guys? Ali, what's when you used to be at the top of your game? Not saying that you aren't now.
I think I want to say the best putting day I ever had was 23 putts.
23.
And that was pretty amazing. But it also comes down to how many greens you miss as well. So that's
not
to say that I shot
I think
66.
putts per round is a kind of a deceiving stat in the way of you can hit it very average and have 25 putts because you've hit 8 in the fringe where they're not counted, and then I think like Henrik had 21 or 22 putts I think in that first round when he shot 8 under because he held 3 or 4 from the fringe. There's probably 2 things that counter out each other really is. I think the greens are running at 13, I heard last week, and they looked quick on TV,
they did.
which makes 100 putts in 4 rounds even more impressive. But, I mean, the PGA Tour greens, they're going to be running perfect every week. So you're not going to, if you hit putts online, they're going to go in. You're not going to get too many bounce off the line. But 13's up. I think they try and get them about 10.5, 11 most weeks from what I hear. That's what the guys sort of like him. So up 13, that sort of throws your speed out, and that can throw spanners in the works.
But talk about the turnaround. I mean, can you, the time that you've been playing top-level golf, both of you, can you remember a week where it's just turned on its head? Now, we know he went and had the lesson with Faxon, and I believe he had a new putter in the bag. Correct me if I'm wrong about the putter. Is that what it can take? Is that all it can take sometimes?
Absolutely.
And the thing just turns around that quickly?
Yeah, well, my best ever week on tour was in Austria a couple of years back, and I was hitting it like a dog from Monday to Wednesday, so bad, to the point where I was like, how am I going to keep this on the planet? And I found on the Wednesday afternoon, I went to the range and I was like, I'm just going to try this, and got a swing thought, and then ended up in the final group going into Sunday.
Yeah, right.
And it just clicked, but it was a massive turnaround. And like we had a similar story at the end of last year with Eun Hee Ji, one of the South Koreans. And she hadn't won an event in, I think, 5 years at that point in time in Taiwan, and got a good swing thought literally on the Tuesday. She chatted with her, not even her coach, just her caddy. Oh, this feels all right. Ended up winning that week. So it does actually happen. But, I mean, that turnaround was pretty... Yeah. To do it at that level and in that much exposure as well when people are criticising you, it's pretty stunning stuff.
And we talked about the depth and the interest in the Masters field last week, and probably for the past couple of weeks, as we added another layer to it with Phil and then Tiger. We discounted Rory completely. And, he hasn't got a great track record at Augusta. Obviously, he led one into the back nine until he snap hooked one into the boondocks there one year. But now we've just got a dozen legitimate contenders.
No doubt. Can you remember just having something that was totally cold one week and then getting super hot the next? Can you remember a time in your short career where that's happened?
Yeah, there's definitely plenty of examples of that. I think golfers are just strange creatures, and you can just throw a new putter in the bag and all of a sudden just changes everything. And it's like the best thing to do is have a short memory as a golfer. Is,
right.
You don't want to remember the 10 left to right 3-footers that you missed high on the putting green before the round when you stand over one on the first green. It's like I can't think of one really specifically where it's been a week. I definitely know some of the best golf I've played, like the Vic Open 2017 when I was sort of leading there and then sort of fell away at the end when Dimmy won. I was hitting shanks on the range on Monday. And some of the best golf some of the best ball striking I have, I actually hit shanks like very close prior to that. I don't know why. It's just every time I hit a shank, I'm like, it means I'm going to hit it good soon.
You're talking about that ability to forget the bad stuff as quickly as you possibly can. Last year, middle of the year last year, we were talking about the kind of the phenomenal sort of up and down hit or miss of Justin Thomas. Like, he was either missing cuts or finishing top 5. It wasn't. There was very little in between with Justin Thomas. And I mean, your last couple of tournaments.
I was going to say my year at the moment. I finished tied 8th or missed the cut.
You're going through that as well. So that feeds right into that narrative as a professional golfer, because not every week's going to be sunshine. But the key is to forget about the stuff where it hasn't happened for you as quickly as you possibly can, because there's so many of these examples where things do turn around in the blink of an eye.
So I think betting on golf is ridiculously hard. Yeah. Not that I really give any advice out, but mates always ask me for tips. Who's going to play well this week? And I'm like,
I got no idea.
This is golf is the hardest sport in the world to bet on. That's why the odds are so high, and that's why it's so hard to win, because there's guys. How many stories are there? The guys that miss 13 cuts in a row and win the 14th week. These guys can come out of nowhere all the time.
Ali, I want to ask you a question, because there's another example of this. Is totally unrehearsed here, as professional as we are. There's another great example of this on the LPGA this week. I mean, someone who'd we'd totally written off came so close to doing
the Dame. The great Dame. Yeah, Laura Davies. Everyone probably had written her off except Laura, and except myself actually as well. Anyone on the Ladies European Tour would see she's a incredible ball striker. So she's a Dame. She's been, appointed. She's not in the world. She's 2 points short of the LPGA Hall of Fame because she split her time between the LPGA and the Ladies European Tour. But essentially, she came out of nowhere. She would have been the oldest winner on the LPGA by 8 years, I think. She would have absolutely slaughtered that record. But she's just never had a lesson in her life. And just a total character, loves the casino. Like, she's that kind
Loves
of
the
bird.
Liverpool Football
She's
Club.
awesome.
Yeah.
She is such a classic.
Can
And
I ask
she'll talk to anyone.
What is 2 points? What does she need to get for 2 points? Because she deserves to be in the Golf Hall of Fame.
Completely agree. She has to. You've challenged me. I think she has to win a major. I think a major gets 2 points, and a regular LPGA event gets 1 point. So she'd have to do some serious work. But you ask her how her golf is, and everyone's like, "Oh, are you going to retire or whatever?" And she's like, "No. As soon as I start putting well, I'm going to win." Genuinely, she's a ripper.
I had a look at her 2017, right, to put what she did on the weekend. Only her second start for the year. She's following the same path, it's seemingly so in tournaments played, that she started last year with, right? So she shoots 14 under, tie for second, shoots 63-69 on the weekend to finish 5 shots back, beating a tie for second. In 2017, Al, she played 13 times professionally. She missed 9 cuts. So teed it up 13 times, missed 9 cuts. Her 4 finishes were tie 65, tie 63, 67th, and tied 59th. She won 19 grand, there or thereabouts, for the year. If you looked at those numbers and put it alongside her age, you are saying, give it away, Laura. Everything's telling you, time's up. Don't. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing, Laura. You're embarrassing yourself. You're embarrassing your legacy. Don't do this anymore. But clearly, as you've just said, she never, ever saw it that way.
No, and she wouldn't. This is a woman, and I can't stress this enough, that she plays golf the way that you play at home when you're with your friends. Actually, you play the way that Lucas Herbert normally plays, because he sometimes pulls shots out of places that you... I saw you make 2 world-class up and downs in Perth that I'm still trying to work out how it happened, and you know which ones I'm talking about. But I remember playing with her at Commonwealth a couple of years back, probably about 7 years ago, and she hit it in the water, and I'm blanking on the hole. I want to say it's maybe 16. It's towards the end. It's dogleg left with the lake 16. In the middle. Yeah. And she ducked it left into the water, dropped a ball, and then proceeded to hit driver off the deck from the rough, carved it up over these trees onto the green. And I had like a comedian as a caddy that week, a girl called Katie Jones, who used to be Katie Forbes, who was in the AIS, wife of Steve Jones, professional. And we get up and Laura just lips out for the par putt. And she just looks at Laura. Everyone's silent. And she goes, "Laura, that would have been a pretty cheeky par." And we all just lost it because it was the way that you play with your mates. And so she is an absolute credit to the game. She's so fun to watch even now. And so I'm happy to see her in the mix.
Like Rory and like Paul Casey, we haven't even mentioned the winner. Yeah. She wins by 5. Inby Park wins the tournament. 4 straight birdies on the back 9 on the Sunday, just blew the field away.
Six under in 5 holes in round 2, was it, at some stage? It was some extraordinary Inby Park.
I think she was
golf.
7 under through 9.
Is she back to her? Is she now officially back to her best, do you think, or has she still got a little way to go before she's there?
Well, she's taken, I want to say, 3 breaks that were 4 months plus.
Yeah.
So before the Olympics, before she won gold at the Olympics, she was off for 4 months with, I think she had issues with her thumb that time. And then she's taken 7 months off last year.
There was this suspicion that she didn't want to play on tour anymore. Was that she wanted to stay home and she'd had enough of it all, and that maybe she was just going to call early time on her career? Were those rumours circulating?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, she got used to the domestic life, which is such a novelty to pro golfers, to be honest with you. Lucas would know that probably better than most of us at the moment. But she genuinely, I think even people on her team were thinking that she was going to toss it in, and she didn't. And she went out, and one of my favourite quotes from last week was Jane Park. All she wrote was, she said, "Imby's out there on the golf course doing Imby things." Right. Because it's the only way to put it, because she gets a sniff of the lead and she just launches.
Yeah. So we're talking about blokes and women who are hot and cold. And while we're talking about all roads leading to Augusta at the moment, we're going to spend a lot of time talking to Lucas, who will get there one of these days, we are certain. One name that I don't think we've mentioned his name since we've started back in 2018. Have you followed the form line of Justin Rose since the PGA Championship last year?
Oh, I couldn't cite the numbers, but yes, it's unreal what he's been doing.
So he misses the current PGA Championship last year. Since then, he's had 13 top 10s from his subsequent 15 starts.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So he's teed it up 15 times since for 13 top 10s. He's gone T10, T10, T2, T10, 1, 1, T4, T10, T5, 1, T22, T8, T37, T5, 3. This is the hottest player on the planet right now. And we say this a couple of weeks ago, we said it about Justin Thomas. But this bloke's, in terms of just putting himself in the frame every single week, and a bloke who, I don't know whether he's a 4-round, hole in, hole out, good enough putter to win at Augusta. But everything else he's doing surely says that he has to be in the top 2 or 3 picks when you get to.
I'd love to chip in here. I played the Indonesian Masters the end of last year, and in the numerous rain delays we had, I sat with Fooch, his caddy, quite a bit, and chatted to him. And looking at the way he's setting his year up, he took a long break there, I think, after the FedEx Cup, and he was kind of getting his year back into, like, kind of got it going again at Hero World Challenge, and started his season there rather than have a break over Christmas kind of thing. He started early, so that he could have I think he wanted all of February, all of March off or something like that to get ready for Augusta. The guy, you look at his results in the last few years around Augusta, like when Spieth won, he ran second. Yeah. He ran second in the playoffs with Sergio, and he said it in an interview last year himself. He's going to win at Augusta, and his game sets up so well for Augusta. Like you said, hasn't really been spoken about this year. Last week, I think he was 3 over through 8 holes at Arnold Palmer, and then finished that round at 4 under. And what did he finish last week? Tied top 5?
Yeah, third.
Yeah.
Shot 14 under. Yeah.
I don't even think there's those greens running as quick as they were around there. Like,
that's a good point.
He putts it plenty well enough, and if he doesn't win at Augusta in the next 2 or 3 years, I'm seriously surprised. The guy has a game built for that course.
I don't want Lucas in here anymore. He's far too well researched. Makes us sound very ordinary.
No, that's very disappointing. Well, maybe there's always one bloke who puts it better than him. There's only got to be one bloke who puts it better than him at Augusta, but he's just, his form line is so strong at the moment, so strong that it would be ridiculous if you're going to pick a 1, 2, 3. I think you've got to have Justin Rose in the mix.
The only reason he's not being talked about so strongly is because we've had Phil win the WGC, we've had Rory win last week, Tiger's up and about, Justin Thomas is, as always, playing well. It's there's just guys overshadowing him at the moment, which is ridiculous considering how good he is around that course.
Just quickly before we get to a break and talk to this bloke about him, a couple of Australians were in the field who got through to the weekend at the Founders, and we spoke to Rebecca Artis a couple of weeks ago on the program. Tied 46, 5 under. Positive start to her LPGA campaign.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really happy to see Beck out there because we talked to her a little bit during the Australian Open, and just about the struggle that the grind of golf, in particular on the Symetra Tour, the secondary US tour, that is absolutely brutal out there. You're paying $500 a week to tee it up, so it's $10,000 before you've even hit a golf shot for the year. And for her to go through and get her card through Q School at the end of the year, she said that Jeff, her husband, was actually welling up out on the golf course. And for those that know Jeff Artis, he is not an emotional man. and he had tears in his eyes, and her dad was also pretty emotional. And she's just I just started losing it when I looked at both of the 2 biggest men in my life, and they were just so emotional as well. So it's great to see her off to a red-hot start, like all of our Aussies really have been, in particular Minjee Lee. She's had, 1st, 2nd, 5th, 4th. Didn't tee it up last week, so she's a good place to look this week at the Key Classic. And then Hannah Green as well. So, amongst others, really.
I've seen Jeff cry when he spilled a beer.
There's a lot to look forward to. We're going to talk to Lucas Herbert about his continuing and developing journey on the other side of this quick break here on Inside the Ropes.
G'day, I'm My Golf Ambassador Jason Day. I'm really excited to be an ambassador for My Golf, Australian Golf's national junior program, jointly run by Golf Australia and the PGA. My Golf is every Aussie kid's first step on their golfing pathway. It's all about teaching children the basic skills of golf in a safe and healthy environment, and just as importantly, about the life skills that golf can teach you that distinguish our sport from the rest. Remember to visit mygolf.org.au for more information.
G'day Australia, it's Matt Kaminsky, Executive Director for the President's Cup 2019. For all the latest golf news, please turn in Inside the Ropes.
Welcome back to the show. Lucas Herbert has already been part of the opening segment far too impressively for the liking of Hazy and I in particular. He's making far too much sense and getting way too many things right. But it's time to turn the blowtorch on, not the blowtorch, the spotlight on you and have a chat about where you're at. and where you're heading.
Sure, there'll be a blowtorch here.
There's
in a minute.
no blowtorch here, mate. We're big fans. You know you've listened occasionally. I think you have anyway, and you know that we're big fans of what you do on this podcast, and very enthusiastic about what you're going to do.
No, bugger it, I'm going to blowtorch him.
Right. Tell us about how significant the Canadian visit was for you and the results that you achieved up there.
Yeah, so just planning around the schedule for the year. Obviously, with nothing on in Australia, we just want something substantial to play in just before the British Open. So, so I haven't sort of come off 2 cold months of not really playing any events. China and Canada Q schools I went to. I got I got status in both of those. So I've got options of events to play in the lead up, and also obviously trying to work through Europe as well to play some European Tour events and try and get my way in over there.
How do you do that? What's the key to getting starts in Europe before the Open?
Well, I've already off my own bat, I guess. Hopefully, I'm going to get Volvo China Open. The top 250 in the world get in, but it's the first 60 entries, so that'll kind of be pretty close as to whether I get in or not. So we're waiting on that a little bit. I've already got an invite for the Roccoforte Open in Sicily, in Italy. So that's all sort of start of May, and then I'll get obviously the Open, Fiji International, and off the Aussie Auto Merit from last year, I'll get the Dunhill Links. So I've got some.
Great.
I got a few events to play, and I've joined as an affiliate member before Perth. So all that's counting. All my money's counting over there to hopefully keeping a card. The sort of the short term goal I've got, trying to get an invite into the Trophy Hassan in Morocco at the end of April, and then hopefully Volvo China comes through, and then Italy. Those 3 events, I think I've got to make roughly 70 or 80,000 euro, and then I'll be the highest ranked player on the Race to Dubai, going into like the BMW International and all the events through the middle of the year, and then as the highest ranked player who's not already exempt. Sorry, I should have mentioned that the highest ranked player who's not already exempt into those events will get a start. So if I can be that player, I'll be getting a start. It'd be harder for other guys to obviously get in and make more money than me. So hopefully that would allow me to play the rest of the season through Europe. So that's sort of a bit of a short-term goal for me. Keep my card that way. And I think, through Europe I can obviously play, get my world ranking up high enough, and at some point get across to the US tour where I want to play my golf.
So 175? 170?
I think so, yeah.
You're starting to get to the point in the world rankings where you that'll get you a start anyhow in a few events.
I haven't really looked into it too much. There's not really a handbook or anything. No one sort of tells you, right, okay, you rank this now, or you've finished this in this event. That means you get these starts. Like, it's all figuring out stuff on your own. So I'm still sort of working all that out.
So can you miss out on stuff because you're not aware
Absolutely.
of? You can, I imagine. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I've not been aware of any that I've missed out on, I think, at this point in time. But
do you do that research, or does your team Herbert do the research?
Well, my manager, David Rollo, for IMG, he's pretty across most of the stuff. So if I finish, high up in an event somewhere, he'll go, that might get you a start here, or this will get you leverage into this event, or something like that. So he's pretty good with that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Are you a student of the world ranking? I just had a quick look last night, and the Macau Open 2 years ago, you're like 1,800 and something in the world. And in that period, it's not even 2 years. It's closer to a year and a half than, well, a year and 3/4 since then. And you're now up to that mid 170s. It's been a phenomenal ascent through the world rankings. Is that something that you do? I mean, you keep an eye on it because it's a professional entry point into the tournaments that you're talking about. But just in terms of where you sit in the world and where your game's taking you, is that important to you?
I think it's for me, it's probably the fairest assessment of where everyone's at with their game. I mean, if one guy beats me in one event, that means that he won that event. I hate to pick Simon Hawkes out of this, but like, he won the Vic Open, and he's really not done before that. Hadn't really done anything else other than that. Does that mean he's the best player in Australia or in the world that week? Like, no, not necessarily. So for me, it's like if you keep moving up in the world rankings, then you're obviously doing something right. So that's kind of my measure. So most of my goals are based around world ranking targets, because it's not like you have to win this week, you have to run top 10 this week, you have to do this week. It's kind of, all right, if you practice and work hard over the year, you're going to get there. So I think, I definitely take an interest in it.
So with that in mind specifically, I said to someone before the Vic Open, which you couldn't play, had Lucas Herbert turned up, he'd be the nominal favourite for this event. and that was franked, I reckon, later on in Perth when you did what you did. You could have got X amount of points that week if you rolled up to 13th Beach. You just would have. But you chose to do something that focuses on the ladder or the next phase of your career. That was China, right? That week?
Yeah.
How do those two sort of juxtapose against each other?
Massive conflicts with Jamie, my mental coach, about that one. He wanted me to go to China, and I really wanted to play the Vic Open. I'd say mainly more because it was the Vic Open, not because of any world ranking points or any money that was involved. I hate missing Australian events. That's something I really want to do throughout my career, is play Australian events. And I really hated missing that tournament. But yeah, obviously the flip side of that was because I got China status, it took pressure off me at Canadian Q School, knowing that if I didn't get my card up there, that I still had something to fall back on. So it was kind of 6-1, half dozen the other in that respect, and that it was probably going to be beneficial both ways.
We lose sight of that, don't we, a little bit over here, I reckon, sometimes. We want our Australian players to play all the Australian events, but this is such a global game, and you're professional players. You have to make decisions sometimes that are in the best interest of your career, not necessarily the tour that has, supported you on the way through, whatever supported looks like and actually means. We on this side of the fence, sometimes lose sight of that fact, I reckon.
I think a great example of that was the Australian Open last year, which clashed with, was it the opening European Tour event? Hong Kong, yeah. And so I think it was Scott Hand and obviously Wade were elsewhere.
Wade and Fraser might have played
there was quite a few guys that went and played that because the field that week for them was weaker. So it made sense that for them to be able to go out and get, their season off to a great start. And if you ask them, none of them want to miss the Australian Open. If they had felt like they had a choice and that that week wasn't really setting up their year, it'd be a different story. But, I think it was what Lucas did was really clever with the Chinese, the Chinese Q School, because I remember talking to your coach Dom about it and saying, why is Lucas not here? And spoke to Jamie that week of the Vic Open. He said, because we want to get that so that he can go to Mackenzie Tour without thinking about it too much and being able to play freely. And it's actually panned out exactly that way.
For me, though, I've scheduled in the Australian Open and the Australian PGA and the New South Wales Open at the end of the year because I really want to play those events.
Attaboy.
That's something that I want to do throughout my. If I make it as a top 50 player, top 10 player in the world, I really want to make a point of trying to come back for our Australian events because, I know we all loved it. I loved it last year playing with J-Day and watching him play, and I was I want that to have if I'm ever that good, I want to have that effect on other players and fans throughout the game. And I know I've got mates back home that play, at club level golf, and they all, for whatever reasons, they maybe don't like some of the Australian golfers as much because they don't come back.
Yeah.
And it's like sometimes Jason is referred to as not really Australian because he doesn't come back for our events, and that's through a whole bunch of reasons. And as a professional golfer, I understand what's going on with him. I can understand why he doesn't come back, but I personally I've made it a real point that I want to come back and play those events. Hopefully if I'm top 10 in the world or something like that.
But it's a good point that the guy in the street in Bendigo doesn't see it that way.
Yeah, and that's a problem with sports sometimes as well, is they don't quite see the underpinning, arguments and reasonings as to why players make the decisions that they do. They only kind of see at the end of the day that Jason Day decides he doesn't want to come back and play the Australian Open because he wants a week off, or Leash wants to. At the time, Leash wanted to play the Hero World Challenge, the Mickey Mouse event, as I think you called it, Hazy.
That was the edited polite version.
Just a cash grab in the Bahamas for them, basically at the end of the year. I can see it from a pro golfer's point of view why they would want to do that.
Absolutely.
But I can also see it from a sporting fan's perspective back in Australia. It was even they released that LeBron and Steph Curry and a few guys were going to come out and play a basketball game in Melbourne.
Oh, they are next year.
Yeah, next year. And you look at the excitement in Australia because we watch all that stuff overseas, and those guys wouldn't understand how much how much the basketball community in Australia would love to see them come out, and how we would pack. It's at Etihad, yeah.
Etihad.
We would pack Etihad out to watch that game.
There's huge pre-sales interest already, and all the courtside seats are sold, and that's a really good point, mate.
Correct.
And they couldn't possibly foresee the interest that'll generate. And aligning this with golf down the track, the importance this will have on young basketballers. And if you say that, what can we do with young golfers? It's critical that we get these names down here and you guys coming back to support everything.
Yeah, and just making golf fun, making golf enjoyable, and a brand that we want to watch.
Have you got a sense for where you're playing golf around the world now? You're starting to put your toe in the water in all four corners.
Mm-hmm.
Have you got a sense for where your game is best suited? The types of courses that you're kind of asked to play on week in, week out? Is there a tour somewhere in the world where you reckon? I think I know what your answer might be to this question.
Well, I love playing in the US,
Yeah.
and I think that's from a travel and logistics point of view, I think that's probably the easiest tour to play on, with how they schedule everything. The amount of events per year, and it's pretty well scheduled. So I would love personally to play there. In terms of courses that suit me, a golf course that the par fives are reachable in two, but long, and then maybe a couple of par fours that are risk reward where you can take driver at the green and get it up around the green, or you can lay it up. Those seem to be the courses that really suit me. So I love Lake Carrinyup for the World Super 6, because all the par fives are reachable. You need a really good tee shot off three there to get it in play, whereas a lot of guys don't have that tee shot. They'll still take 3-wood and hit it right of the bunker and play as a 3-shotter. I really take that on and try and hit driver down there, get an iron on the green or around the green, and I back myself to make up and down and make birdie there, and maybe even sneak a 3 here and there. And then you've got like the first is drivable, the 14th is drivable. There's one other hole in there. I think you can
10?
knock it really close. Yeah, 10. You can knock it really close as well. So that's a golf course that sets up really well for me.
Yeah.
And that was why in the event this year, I didn't think I really had. I probably had my B grade game that week, but just the strategy, hitting the right clubs off the tee for me, it was. Like it really set up for me. I thought I played better in New Zealand 2 weeks later when I missed the cut.
It's funny, isn't it?
On a golf course that probably didn't suit me.
Yeah.
Well, you talked about Paul Casey before, Andy, about his record. Lucas has got something similar going on
No
here.
doubt.
I mean, I'd like you to talk about that run, how it feels to you when you step on the course now as opposed to maybe 6, 8, 10 months ago, what your own expectations are. But also you mentioned playing with Jason. You didn't get the chocolates. Was it T7 maybe finish?
Yeah, tied 6th. Yep.
Tied 6th at the Australian Open. That experience you got there, aside, I mean, I know you would have liked a bigger check. Everyone understands that. But that's money can't buy, isn't it?
Yeah, as a team, Jamie, me, Dom, we all probably agreed that I probably matured 3 years in 2 days there.
Wow. Yeah.
The experience that I got from that was unbelievable. Just being exposed to seeing how he played, and then even the confidence that I get within myself that I played the way I did for 27 holes with him, and didn't I was. If you talk to Jamie about the Saturday morning there, he flew. Our time, he flew LA to Melbourne's Friday night, the overnight Friday night, Saturday morning, and he woke up to a message from me Saturday morning like, "Hey mate, how do you go about like living?" Like normal life, because I don't feel like I can't do it. I've forgotten how to do it. I don't know how I slept. I was just buzzing. I was super nervous, which is I hadn't been like that in a long time. So the experience of playing well, in that in those circumstances was really good. And even to be honest, on that last day, I knew Jason really wanted to win an Australian Open, and I knew that probably pretty much all the pressure was on him. No one was really expecting me to play well. So my tactic was if I make birdies early and put the heat on him, I think I've got him, because I even saw some things maybe on Saturday that I was like, I think I've got him covered in that area. I think he could get better in that area, and I've got him covered. He's obviously got me covered in a lot of areas, but I thought there was a couple of little things. If I can play to them, if I can challenge him in those areas, I think I've got him. And I thought if I can make a couple of birdies early and put some heat on him, I really think I can beat this guy today. And I did. I made some birdies early and put some heat on, and I had him in a good position. Unfortunately, through my own doing, sort of unravelled on the back nine there. But like that carried through to the next week. I was wrecked at the PGA, so tired. And thankfully, the PGA gave us morning tee times every morning, so I got a sleep in. And by Sunday, I was nearly fell over walking out of the scorer's tent. But still ran tied 7th because I had that buzz of the week before. And then Singapore was the same thing. I get it up around the lead and I feel more comfortable. And then Perth, get up around the lead, I feel more comfortable. And it's like you can bring a B or a C grade game and still be like, I'm good enough that doesn't matter. That was massive.
So tell us about that run you've had where you had that string of top 10 finishes. You start to bank some checks. And some of your press conferences during the Australian Open were fantastic because there was a real fresh interest in Lucas Herbert and a profile that you were getting as by virtue of your, where you were sitting on the leaderboard. And on one of the press conferences, you talked about just the money pressure of being a pro. Can I afford to play next week? Can I afford to get to where I want to go? You're going to make more money than you've made through this run, but presumably you've got a bit of money in the bank now, so you can kind of lay it out a little bit.
Yeah.
How big a difference does that make to a young pro?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a couple of different levels of it because personally, I invest quite a lot of the money I make straight back into me and getting Dom, Jamie, my physio Simi, my caddy, all trying to get all of them to an event because when they're all there, that's less stress for me, and they can see what's going on more. They get more access to me. They can learn more. We can develop more. So for me, it's not about just being able to get to another tournament. It's being able to take the whole team there.
Yeah.
So that way, we can do more learning, and that I think that's a massive attribution as to why I've got to 175 in the world, and hopefully keep improving. Is because, it's not about all right. We just banked 110 grand in Perth. Let's go and buy a new car. It's no, all that fun stuff of, buying all that stuff. That's when I get to the US tour and I can go and run 30th and buy a new house. That's for all that. I'll worry about that when I get to that point in my career. Right now, it's investing back in myself, getting those guys at more events so that I can get to that top 50 in the world, and chase the dreams that I want to chase.
That's great.
Well, it's nice to see it coming together as well, because I remember talking to your dad before one of the rounds at the Australian Open, and
he wasn't nervous, was he? He's never nervous.
He was cruisy. But yeah, and Lyndon said to me that I said, does he have any backing? And he said he's got one sponsor. And it was the chest, left centre chest.
Yeah, mate from back home, Shane Muir, Engineering Consulting. Plug that in there.
Well done. And so, but and I said, is anyone else on board? And he's like, no, he's got no help. And just yesterday, you were announced as part of the Golf Australia rookie squad, which is great. It's your first crack at it, and that's a big amount of funding. I was part of it for 3 years myself, so I know what a big deal that is and the financial pressure that takes off, and it's been a credit to Golf Australia. But so 9 people in the squad, but you've got someone like Ryan Ruffles who's playing over on the Latin America PGA Tour, and it's his third year in it, and so then you've got someone like Lucas who's been on our radar consistently the last 2 months. It's finally getting a nod at it, so congratulations on that. And that
thank you.
Pretty fun to have that behind you.
Yeah,
Hazy advocated for you. Hazy pushed real hard for that.
Really?
I would have bashed the door down, to be honest with you, if you hadn't got a gig in it.
Yeah, look, I'll be pretty honest. When I finished as an amateur from the national team, it probably didn't. That relationship didn't end well. Probably a lot through my own doing, really, of being a 19-year-old kid and being as stubborn and big-headed as I am.
So what happened? What was the thing?
There was just disagreements as to how I was going about things. I changed coaches, which I wasn't really, to be honest, that happy about. And I was just in an environment where I wasn't getting much out of myself. And I think it's one of those things when you can't really see the results coming through, you're not really that motivated to practice. And that was kind of that was kind of the end factor, really. I was not working very hard at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was definitely bad blood there, but credit to the guys in GA. They really in the last 2 years, obviously the results have been coming through for me, but they've definitely seen the processes that I've put in place with the team I've got around me, and they've seen how important that team is and how they're getting the best out of me, and they've given me the freedom I need to be me and to take control of that and to have my team in there that can get the best out of me. So I think that was the most pleasing thing with those guys is they came to me. Golf Australia came to me saying that they wanted to help out in some way. They sort of didn't really know how I wanted to get help or what that looked like, but it was like, we want to help you. We see you as a prospect in the future, which is really nice of them to see that. And that they wanted to help me out, and I was pretty grateful that they did that. Yeah, because I to be honest didn't think that would come back to as good a relationship as it is now after how it ended as an amateur.
That's good, Hazy. It's great.
It's awesome. And I mean, I've always been tight with Lucas, but I'm assuming that there's been some fractured relationships for a little while there with a couple of people, but I think it's important, and not just for Lucas, but for others who have been in a similar situation, to realise that it's nothing personal ever happens. And I'm not potting you as a bloke, never would, but I would imagine that you're a different person to who you were at 19.
I'd love to think that I'm a lot more mature than I was at 19. Yeah, definitely. There's just.
Man,
you know me. I'm very stubborn, and the joke that all the guys that I work with right now have is that basically they'll tell me to do something, I tell them to get stuffed, and then I go and do it within the next day.
Yeah, right.
That's how it happens. But that if you don't know that's how I work, that can come off really badly. But those guys know that they tell me something, it'll get through to me eventually. Like, I've just got to see it the right way, and if they tell me something and it's important, and I don't realise that, it's not because what they've said isn't important. It's just they haven't delivered it the right way, and that's why I think the guys that are around me now, coaching wise, team wise, are the best that I can get.
I think that's fantastic. I mean, every person in the world learns a different way, and it's a give and take process. There's only so much from a GA perspective. And I don't want to talk for the high performance guys, but there's only so much money to give. And I think it's more a matter of a mental attitude that you take towards the things that gets rewarded ultimately. Lucas wasn't part of the national squad at the end of your amateur career, but I would, without any question, probably because I know his coach a little bit, know that he's one of the hardest workers going around, and I think that's far more important than some of the results that we see perhaps as a 17, 18, 19, 20-year-old, and the proof's in the pudding here.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
Because, you wouldn't get from where Lucas was 3 or 4 years ago as a promising amateur to a burgeoningly, if there's such a word, successful professional.
I think the best thing they ever did was basically kick me out of the national team because I got my ass into gear.
There you go.
Yeah,
and that wouldn't have been the intended. That wasn't. But that's a consequence of that moment in your life. And you know what? You're here, so of course we're going to say nice things to you. But it's a credit to yourself that you didn't spit the dummy, go and get on the grog, put on 15 kilos, and just become a +3 marker back in Bendigo somewhere. Yeah. Because a lot of people in that situation as a young golfer could go, up yours, get stuffed, I'm out. If you don't want me, I'm not. But you didn't do that. So there was obviously a higher calling somewhere. And through those circumstances, you found it. So that's fair enough, isn't it, Al? That's kind of how life rolls sometimes,
completely.
isn't it?
Knowing Lucas the way that I do now, to think back to a point where he could have got kicked out of anything is very foreign thinking for me, because I'm ready to set him up with half of my friends under the age of 25. So,
well, what are we waiting for?
So anyway, I think that's as big a compliment as I can give.
What do you reckon you're better at? Are you better at pure playing, like ball striking, golf course, strategizing? Are you better at that, or are you better at competing? Do you reckon? What's your strong competing?
Yeah, absolutely. I hate losing. So yeah, that's. I guess that's the question answered right there.
Yeah.
personally, I don't think really like you. If I look at a golf swing of mine on video, where do we start with that?
But it's yours.
It just looks.
It's yours,
so
right?
weird. Like,
yeah.
And I don't really rate any of my own abilities as like I can't compare a golf swing of mine against anyone else in the world. I don't like none of it feels like it's really that good, but I get under pressure and it's like I know where the ball's going. Like that's all I care about.
Yeah.
I think
that's great.
We're a couple of days we're nearly a day away now from the World Match Play Championship in Austin, Texas. I'm listening to this talk over here now, and I cannot wait for you to get to that stage. Yeah. And you're only 100 ranking points away from it. You could be there next year. It could be a couple of years. Let's hope you keep pressing on. But listen to you talk about how you lined up Jason Day's game against yours and how you could ram home an advantage even against the world's best player. That's awesome to me. That just really gets the hairs on the back of my neck up.
I just want to know whether you've changed, right? I found in just doing my 1 minute of research on you before we sat down for a chat, I saw I think it was on Golf Australia's website, an old Q&A with you from about 3 years ago. So I'm just going to ask you a question that you were asked then to see whether you're still the same Lucas Herbert as you were before you had any money in the bank, all right? What is your favourite food?
Chicken parma.
He hasn't changed. Hazy, he hasn't changed. Is there a pub somewhere that serves up like if we're in that neck of the woods, you've got to go to this pub to get that chicken parma? Is there one in particular that you can under pressure now, of course, but is there one that you can think of?
The Riser?
I don't know that I can plug any pub in Bendigo to be the best. There's a Facebook page that was going around for a while that was like a chicken parma rater in Bendigo. So they would go around and rate the parmas, and it'd be like, was it served on top of the chips? That's a big one. You can't serve the parma on top of the chips.
Hallelujah, brother.
If you get veggies, like are they good veggies with it, or is it like is it a lower class salad? Like, and it was a very popular page, and I think I'd have to consult that before I'd give a winner to any.
Do you want greens? Do you want greens anywhere near a chicken parma though? I just want. I just want a chicken parma and chips. You do.
I really rate veggies. I don't
mind veggies, but with a chicken parma.
When you travel as much as pro golfers, we love veggies. I love like steamed, roasted veggies, and so I'll take them over a salad any day.
Okay, righto. What about veggies from a Bain Marie? Here's your parma. Now go get your own veggies. They're on a Bain Marie. If you turn up at about 8:20. What's left over? It's been in there for a couple of hours. It depends. Pretty soggy carrots.
Depends if my physio/nutritionist is having dinner with me. If she is, I'll probably load up and make it look like I had an attempt at nutrition. But
right.
That's one thing from pro golf though that Lucas is going to learn being in China as well. Like when you're out in the back streets in China trying to find dinner. You go for the cooked veggies. You don't go for the salad.
Oh no!
You choose life.
Oh yeah.
So at least you're starting from a good spot.
There you go.
I've got to ask him one more.
One more, right?
Serious golf question. I want to ask him about Dim Sims, but I just don't want to go there now, mate. You've got a really big thing coming up in July. Singapore Open. A great result against a really talented field, but you get the dream for you is to get that first major championship under your belt. Carnoustie, have you played there? B, what are your thoughts about the Open Championship?
Yes, I played there back in 2015 in the amateur, I think they like to call it up. We're going to say the British amateur because that's what it is. And it's the British Open too. It's not the Open.
Clayton's listening to this. Wait till he turns
I'm sure I'll get him with something else later on. I don't know what questions you've got ready for me, but I'm sure I'll have something for him. I obviously played it then. I think I'd had about 6 over in the first round, so I needed about 66 to qualify for the match play, and it was pretty evident about 6 holes in that wasn't coming out. So I don't know that I really played it in proper tournament conditions because it was not at the point where I was under any pressure, but definitely saw my way around it. So have a bit of an idea what I'm going to need. We've got a bit of a plan in place. We spoke about it. Jamie and I spoke about it last week just before Canadian Q Scores. We were just sort of chatting about whatever and sort of looked at the President's Cup standings for next year being Tiger. I think we were looking at the Tiger and Ernie interview about Royal Melbourne and sort of just chatting about that and thought, I wonder what like the 12th ranked international player would be, and then sort of went through and had a look and went, do you reckon we could like maybe even give that a little sniff? So we're sort of putting in plan some some plans to maybe give that a bit of a look in at the end of next year, because I don't know when the President's Cup will be back at Royal Melbourne again. Like, I think that'd be sort of something that'd be pretty cool to do. Play a President's Cup in your hometown. Could probably stay at home for that one. I only live about a kilometre from the course. I think like that'd be a pretty cool thing to do. So we're sort of just getting in place some plans to do that. And one of those would be probably running top 20 at the Open, which I don't think is necessarily going to be that out of the question. So we're obviously just planning the preparation around that as to what I'm going to play, and then how we're going to practice and get ready with the crew. And if I go about all the right processes and execute everything really well that week, I don't see any reason why that wouldn't be a possibility.
Isn't that lovely?
Oh, I've got more hairs on the back of my neck.
Mate, and isn't it great that we can sit here and you can say, this is something that I'd like to do. It's something that I'm planning to do. If all things go well, then it might actually happen. And I don't think anyone sitting around here in their back of our minds is thinking, this bloke's kidding himself. No. There's no way he can do that. Like, I'm not thinking that's beyond you. I wouldn't put a cap on what's capable for you at all. So why would you? You know what I mean? Like, have a crack. Why not?
It feels like the things that I'm probably not capable of doing right now, it's like, well, in the next 2 years, you get more experience, you learn more things, and they will become possible. For me, I don't know. I don't see any barriers for me. It's like, I don't think I'm ever going to be able to do that. It's kind of just, all right, we'll see how things go and keep executing the right plans, and it can only take us as far as we can go, really.
Herbert v. Kuchar, singles.
Oh,
match
Kuch.
It all comes down to that. Oh, how exciting is that?
I feel like the profanities that Cooch would say as opposed to me would be. I feel like I'd throw a lot more untelevisable words in there than him. Have you seen like his some of his spits that he does after a bad shot and the things he says? They're just like, he's obviously got young kids, so he's just used to saying them. They're absolute gold. Go and find them on YouTube.
Yeah. Gosh darn it.
Yeah,
there's a lot of that.
Gosh, Maddie.
There's a lot of that.
Sorry, I do have to ask him one more because Clates will kill us.
Oh, go on. All right, we could be, but try and keep this short if you can.
All right, you got to keep this short, Lucas.
Oh, this is not easy.
Everyone in this room for the past 34 and a half episodes now has been pretty much pro rolling the ball back. The distance debate. You are the lone wolf now. You are the one who doesn't advocate for that based on what we read. Why?
You said a short answer. To be honest, I don't really mind if they roll the ball back. Personally, I don't have an issue, and I think I've tried to make that clear. If they want to roll the ball back, that's fine. I think that's probably really only going to suit me. But I think the things around the golf industry that it affects are going to have worse effects than what it'll have because 5 guys in the field every week hit it over a bunker that shouldn't be able to be hit over.
So too much change for too few people.
Well, if you, I think is it bifurcation?
Yeah,
is that how you say it? Yeah. I think that can only hurt. If you're a golf manufacturer, why would you make a ball that? Why would you make a pro-only ball if you're going to have a ball for the professionals and a ball only for the amateurs? You can't. Pros are not going to buy their own golf balls, so you're going to have to make a golf ball that you're going to give to all the pros, and then how are you going to market? Okay, a pro plays a Titleist or a TaylorMade, but you as the amateurs play a completely different ball. So why would they even? I just don't. I don't understand from a manufacturer's point of view why they would even make a ball like that. It's only going to put them so far out of pocket. And then if you're gonna make everyone play the exact same ball, I think like that's when you're gonna lose so many people from the game. If you're gonna cap the ball right now and say it can't go any further than this, that's fine. I can understand that, and I think that's smart. But if you're gonna wind the ball back, if you're gonna say right, if guys that hit 300 are now back to 275, and the only fair way to do it is a percentage. You can't say that, okay, the guys that swing it at 120, they're back 30 yards, but the guys who swing it at 110, they're only back 5 yards. I don't see that as being fair. If you're going to make it a percentage thing, that's fine. But everyone's going to lose. And I think as much as all of us, we really appreciate seeing a nice shaped shot around a tree into a back left pin that, we all love that as golf nuts, right? We love that. But we're not going to go away from the game if that is taken out. We're still going to follow golf. If you look at the guys, and that's the thing, 95% of golf fans that are on the fringe, they want to see guys bomb at 370 like Rory. They don't care. Like, you look at all the big stars of the game, the John Daly's, the Rorys, the Dustins. Everyone loves long drive.
So the people who care about the legacy of the great courses, your view is that they're in a minority. That they're not worried about what happens to the classic courses because they'd rather just see a bloke hit it 1,000 miles in the air. I'm not being a smart aleck. I'm asking because I think you're probably right. I think there is a significant amount of new golf fans who don't give a stuff about a bunker that was in play 30 years ago on a par 4 dogleg that is no longer in play. I think a lot of golf fans wouldn't give a toss about that, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think you're right in that some of the courses in Melbourne are probably they're being played a lot differently to the way they were either back when they were designed or 30 years ago, or whenever you want to make that point. But I think they're being played that way by the 5 guys in the field every week that can hit it 330. It's I'm playing out here. There's not that many guys that are hitting it that long. They can get it long on the range, but out in the course they're not hitting it that long.
Yeah.
So they're all hitting it to the right spots. Now, if you're going to cap the ball here, that's fine, and you don't have to build any tees further back. You don't have to put anything else in, and that's fine. But I think it's such a minority of guys that are hitting it too far, as opposed to the ones that are actually it's actually bringing more people into the game because they're going, I can actually hit it out there at 250 into the spots that it was designed to hit it into. And I made an example of my granddad's barely hanging on to his last legs of golf. He can't even carry the creek on the first hole at Castlemaine Golf Club, and that's not a long carry. If you want to go and take 15 yards off him, and he's not alone. Our golfing population is mainly that age bracket. How many guys are going to go, well, all the golf balls just bought, they're all done. I can't hit any further.
But unless your granddad's hitting it with 115 mile club head speed, he's probably, not going to suffer that damage.
Yeah, but that's also the thing I don't understand is how can the guys that swing it at 120 how can you take so much off them, and a guy that swings it 5 mile an hour slower doesn't have as much of an effect? Because the guys that swing it at 120, they weren't born like that. They all trained and they all worked out, this is how you swing it quick. They all worked on their technique to get it like that. They got club fitted to do that. I think a lot of people are taking away, they're saying that swinging it fast is not it's not a skill. It's just an athletic thing. And I think it's, because you look at me, I haven't been to a gym since October 16, Mari. You think I go to the gym 5 days a week?
I don't believe it. I'm going to put a private eye on you and follow you around.
You could out-bench press me.
There is.
You could out-bench press me.
No, I can't. Trust me, Lucas.
I have no strength.
I could not.
I've no strength, right?
Look at me.
But I've worked out. I've worked out with my technique. Dom's worked on my technique. We've worked out how to swing the club fast and get it consistently.
Ali, no one has a natural V from him without going to the gym.
I don't know. I reckon
No
he's
one.
got some chicken wings under that jumper. I think he's got some granny arms maybe.
I promise you I don't go to the gym.
Well, I even like you even more now if that's the case.
So that's the thing. I think it's a skill to be able to. There's guys that I'm not going to name names because it'll really hurt some egos. But there's guys that I see out on tour that are big lads, they're very strong and can't move the club very quick at all.
Yeah.
So I just don't think a ball rollback, making the ball go 15 yards less, is going to help the game of golf even close to what it will do for the making a classic course relevant. You look at where we're playing the US Tour events. They're not classic. Riviera is a classic golf course.
The best golf course in America don't get played on.
Correct. They play on facilities that allow a tournament.
Spot on.
And they're all, if you don't fly at 300 in the air, have fun on the weekend because you'll be, in the bars downtown.
Yeah. I just can hear Clates on my shoulder wanting to ask you about 30 questions, and we haven't got time, literally, for me to ask the questions that I want to ask you. But you do make a few valid points, and I can see your thing. But Clates would kill me if I didn't say, isn't golf a test of using clubs, all the clubs through your bag? You could go out now, I put it to you, Lucas, that you could go out and play with your driver, your 7-iron, and a couple of wedges and a putter.
Yeah, you're probably right. And I'm not... probably not. I don't really disagree with Clates in that, like, yeah, it's a lot more of a challenge to play with all the clubs in your bag. I guess my counter argument for him is, like, I don't see him out there playing tour balladas and hickory clubs on a Saturday at Metro. He's still using all the latest technology. So if it's so much better and it makes the game so much better, why isn't he doing it now? Why is he trying to make a rule that enforces him to do that?
This is like Danny Green and Anthony Mundine baiting each other in the jungle.
And so many people have come back with that response. Oh, it'll make people shape the ball more, or they'll enjoy playing a shorter ball. No, they won't. Who wants to take 15, 20 yards off their game? No, they don't.
It's funny, actually, because what I would say to the people that want to see every club in the bag used is go watch the women.
Well, that's a good point.
That's the other thing. You look at it's literally the US tour that this is the problem with, because the ladies tour is perfect. They all hit it to the spots that it's designed to on a golf course, because obviously shorter lengths off the tee, they can change the tees around to set them up for, they can put them on the men's tee, or I was only a junior when they played it at Commonwealth, but I remember there were some tees that were used. They were using the men's tees, some were only the women's tees, and the women's tour is perfect. It sets up really well for them.
That is true, and that's why it's so pleasurable to watch the women's tour. But I don't want to see too many 11 woods, Ali.
No, that's the only.
The last time a 3-iron or a 2-iron was in, in B Park's bag was when she was, 3 years old.
Yeah, I mean, I would say 10% of the girls have a 4-iron or less, or whichever way you look at it.
They're iron deficient.
Yeah, well, I mean, Michelle Wee won 2 weeks ago in Singapore with an 11 wood in her bag.
That's crazy.
And she swings it fast.
Yeah, and she's actually got some club head speed on her. Anyway.
I feel like, honestly, we've scratched the surface on this, and it's interesting listening to you talk about it. We could talk about it a lot longer than we have, but we do need to get a break out of the way. We've got a very special guest joining us on the other side of this. Hazy's been doing some research. You want to hear the story of Leslie Malcolm. She's coming out next. Do you want to stick around to the end of the show?
Sure, love to.
Lucas Herbert going to stay with us till the end of Inside the Ropes. A quick break. Back with more after this.
The Golf Australia website is now the place to go to look up your handicap and so much more. Whether you're out and about on your phone or in the office trying to avoid work, just go to golf.org.au and punch your golf link number into the box at the top of the homepage. Who knows? Maybe that last round was just good enough to put you in single figures. While you're on the site, check out the daily golf results at your club, view our course index for up-to-date ratings, read the latest golf news from home and abroad, listen to Australian golf podcasts and interviews, and watch video tournament highlights or tips to improve your game. It's everything a golf tragic could want. Visit golf.org.au today, the home of Australian golf.
Good day, this is David Graham, and you are Inside the Ropes.
Welcome back to the show. A whole lot of other bits and pieces to work our way through before we get to the end of the show. But golf, Hazy, and TUL, of course, and you, Lucas, is full of remarkable stories, as is sport. And Hazy, you've brought us to the attention of one of the more remarkable ones, to be honest.
Oh, we stumbled across one yesterday, and I'm so grateful I did. I made contact with a lady you're about to hear, and she just regaled me with one of the great golfing stories I've heard for quite a while, Andy. Just fantastic. And we welcome on board, all the way from Bunbury in WA, Leslie Malcolm. Leslie, congratulations on your feats. We'll explain them to people in a second, but well done.
Thank you very much for your very kind comment.
Well, Leslie, we better explain what happened to the masses here. You've gone to Bunbury Golf Club last Wednesday. You've been playing golf for, you'll tell us more in a second, but nearly 40 years. You roll up to the first tee in the winter season opener, and what happened?
Can I give you my story first?
Yes, you can.
And then that'll all come into that.
Far away.
Okay. My husband Max and I lived on a farm in a partnership with Max's brother Colin and my sister Anne at Cordring in WA. For entertainment, we travelled to Moody Arup, 14 miles to the east of Cordring. I started, Moody Arup was situated halfway between Collie and Kojonup in WA, right. And it was a farming district only. It had a lake where families went for picnics, swimming, classes, water sports and camping. It had a sporting complex of bowls, tennis and a golf club with sand greens. In 1997, I started to play intermittently and then became a constant player in 1980. The ladies at Moody Arab Club were very encouraging and very, very patient, as I was a very, very bad player to start with. In 1985, I won the B grade championships at Moody Arab, Williams and Darkin. In 1986, for various reasons, the ladies' side of the golf club closed, and I joined the Collie Club, being 40 miles away from my farm. Once again, the ladies were very encouraging and taught me to play on green greens. At both clubs, we travelled extensively to all open days of other clubs and had a great time. In 1994 to 2005, I joined the Albany Club and had a great time travelling along the south coast of WA from Bremer Bay and Boxwood Hills in the east to Walpole in the west. I won the 2004 Brenda Whitmoon Cup in Albany just before we left. Now I have joined the Bunbury Club in 2006 and travelled from Mandurah south to Augusta on the west coast of WA. There was a funny incident when I was playing with my 12-year-old grandson in the Lenin Cup in Busselton. I chipped in for an eagle on hole 18. It was a 5-par from 100 metres to the green. The most lucky shot ever. My grandson ran and gave me his grandmother a very big hug in the middle of number 18 fairway. I was so surprised but loved him for it. Another time I was chosen to play with the sponsors at Busselton Club, and one of the sponsors was Angry Anderson, the entertainer. I was introduced to him as Gary Anderson. I did not know who he was. He was playing badly, so on number 16 tee box, I lined him up and he had the most beautiful hit. He was so proud. He was very amused at not being recognised and had a lovely day, and he was a very gracious man.
He was bound for glory, Leslie.
Now I have shocked myself and all the Bunbury Golf Club members with my first ever hole-in-one. It was opening day for the winter season for the ladies on Wednesday, March the 14th. On number 1 tee, first swing of the day for me, I had a hole-in-one. It was 152 metres to the green and I used a 5-wood. I did not see it go in, but everyone else did. Ladies on number 2 tee box saw it and great excitement erupted. I had to settle the ladies down because it was the first hole we had played and there were 17 others to go. Then on March the 17th, the Saturday ladies were having their winter opening for the season, and I shot a hole-in-one on number 8 green, being 136 metres, playing a 4-iron. 2 holes in one in 4 days. It was a miracle. And the club erupted in great excitement. I was overcome when 41 ladies gave me a standing ovation when I entered the clubhouse for lunch. Everyone has been so excited for me. The club and on Facebook comments have been so kind. I thank everyone for their comments. I have been totally unprepared for their response. I have really enjoyed my 40 years of golf. I have a very patient and encouraging husband, Matt, who never complained about my being away playing golf and never complained when the meals were burnt because I had time while practicing at home in the garden. And I thank you for your kind comments and for your interest. Thank you very much.
Don't you go anywhere, Leslie. Don't hang up. Don't hang up. Whatever you do.
That's the best off-the-cuff response I've ever heard, Leslie.
Hey, Leslie, how many meals have you burnt over the years you've been practising your short game out in the garden, do you reckon?
Oh, I've lost count. In fact, it's a lot so long ago I can hardly remember now. But what I used to do was hit the golf ball off my little patch of lawn at the back of the house, past the lemon tree up into the paddock, and I had it all measured off so I knew what the sticks played, And then every time I went past the lemon tree, I used to clip it with a ball sometimes, and I had one straight side on the lemon tree and the other side was quite rounded.
How many miles do you reckon you've done? When you were outlining your early days in golf over there in WA, Leslie, have you got any idea have you ever sort of sat down with your husband and worked out how many miles you must have done chasing the game?
No, I don't know how many miles I've done, but one year we travelled to Narrogin, and we went by bus out to Lake Varley, where 12 ladies, we played at Ambrose, and 12 ladies and their husband entertained 200 of us out there, and we never ever forgot that, because we really only played 9 holes, didn't we? In an Ambrose, you only hit so many times. So anyway, we've travelled lots and lots of miles, and I cannot remember.
Leslie, you told me yesterday there's not one club in the whole southwest of Western Australia you haven't played at, which I think is a phenomenal achievement for anyone. But the key part of this story, perhaps I didn't relay early, was the fact that you're actually 81 years of age.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
Can people believe this? Can you believe this? It's not uncommon, I suppose, for people to have a couple of holes in one in a lifetime, but to start doing them at 81 and then have 2 in 4 days, I mean, it's pretty extraordinary. I know you were pretty emotional on Saturday.
Yes, and I still am. And, I can't understand it at all, except that it's all a big miracle to me. It's I have no explanation. Have you?
No, there's no way of explaining this sort of stuff, other than the fact, Ali, that Leslie must be hitting the ball as well now as she ever has.
I was going to say, did you say 136 metre 4-iron, Leslie?
Yes, I did.
You pump it. You're only 20 yards behind the pro. That in itself is impressive, let alone the fact it went in.
Is that right?
Yep.
Oh, my goodness, I didn't know that.
I've been saying for Leslie, you clearly don't agree that the ball goes too far these days. You're not of that view.
Well, when on number 8 green, I thought it had gone through the back, but it hadn't. And then the next day I played it, I nearly did put the ball through the back of the green. It was amazing.
Leslie, on Sunday you played again, and I can't report a third hole in one, but you carried a young bloke of 70 through a bit of 4-ball or something, didn't you?
Yes, he was. Yes, he's a young married man with 3 children, and the oldest one's 5, and he's on a 34 handicap, and he was on the card 8 times, and I did the rest, and we had a great day.
And what happened to your handicap?
It went down 1.
Right. From where to where at age 81?
Sorry?
From where to where your handicap went?
18 to 17.
You're an inspiration to us all, Leslie. It's a remarkable story, and we thank you for taking the effort you have and the time you have to tell us your story. We appreciate you getting up. We're recording this podcast in Melbourne before 9 o'clock in the morning, and you're all the way over on the other side of the country. So we know you've got up really early to do this interview with us, and we thank you from the bottom of our hearts, Leslie.
Good, thank you, and thank you for asking me to do that for you.
Good on you.
Thanks, Leslie.
Cheers, Leslie.
What an unbelievable story. Leslie Malcolm joining us on Inside the Ropes.
Hi, this is Sherelle McMahon. Swing Fit is the fun, healthy, social way for women to get started in golf. You'll learn the basics of the golf swing and how to putt over a 6-week program, and get your whole body moving through yoga and Pilates-style exercises. You don't need any golf knowledge or equipment. Simply turn up in comfy clothing and get started. You'll be surrounded by like-minded people and receive constant support. So get outdoors, meet new friends, and learn a sport that you can play for the rest of your life. To find a program near you, visit swingfit.com.au.
G'day guys, I'm Scott Hend. I'm around the world playing golf everywhere, but when I can, I love listening to Inside the Ropes.
Well, she's an extraordinary woman. I mean, that is an extraordinary story. She told the story well, might I add. Not too many bits and pieces she's left off the table there, God love her. But
short précis of the history of the Southwest and Western Australia.
Oh, there you go.
That was magnificent.
2 holes in one at 81, 4 days apart from one another. That's a ridiculous story.
I understand from the Bunbury Golf Club, which was recently awarded, Andy, as the Regional Golf Club of the Year in Western Australia, which is fantastic. It's in brilliant nick. thriving club. It's a sight to behold. They were just in awe of her. And I was told yesterday she plays 3 rounds a week. She pushes her own buggy. They all still, ladies bring a plate, that sort of thing applies, but the club attitude towards it isn't the old-fashioned attitude. They've got a great thing going on there, and they just love her to death.
That's
absolutely
great.
Awesome.
Speaking of regional clubs, can I just give a shout-out to the Port Fairy Golf Club in the southwest of Victoria? Last weekend played in the time-honoured Blue Jacket Classic, the 29th playing of the Blue Jacket Classic, won by Steve Farino. But there is a golf course. There is a golf course that if you haven't, I'm sure we all have, but if you haven't played down at Port Fairy, you got to get down there and play that golf course. It's spectacular.
My number one fun course in Australia.
Yeah, it's a beauty. We're talking about golf clubs and golf balls in the previous segment with Lucas Herbert, Ali, becoming potentially obsolete if we roll back things too much and current day equipment will become obsolete. You've got a remarkable story about how somebody can get access to the elite level range of golf clubs going at a pretty affordable price.
Oh, wow. This is probably, I think it's going to be one of the quirkiest stories in golf of the year. And it's just come about today, our time, this morning. In Kyung Kim, major champion, a multiple winner on tour on the LPGA last year, world number 6, was flying back. I think she was flying back from Korea, actually, over Christmas. And her clubs got lost on the way back from the airline, who will remain nameless. I'm not going to name and shame them. She was trying to chase them down, couldn't find them anywhere. And these are the clubs that she's won the British Open with last year. Can't find her golf club. So she's actually had to go and be refitted for everything in the bag, which a professional golfer will understand that sometimes you have clubs that are 8 years old that have a certain shaft in it that aren't accessible anymore. So her clubs are gone. She's gone and got refitted. And so in Singapore this year, we're doing kind of a pre-show, which is all bets are off in this pre-show. And I said to my producer, I want to go do it in the bag with IK Kim. And he's like, oh, okay, kind of a strange request. And I said, no, she's lost all of her golf clubs. So everything in her bag is fresh. And he's like, get out there. Go on, go get the story. So anyway, IK is a friend of mine. And I went over to her and I was like, we're going to do it in the bag. But obviously this is going to be super awkward because you don't know any of these golf clubs yet. And so we've gone through it. Anyway, as the story's evolved, I keep telling her, I'm like, anything on the golf clubs? I message her each week, and she's heard nothing. Today, she's got the call up, I think from the Carlsbad police station. I don't know how they contacted her, but these 3 good Samaritans in California, she's over there for the Kia Classic this week, Jack, Jeff and Paul, have contacted the Carlsbad police, I believe, and somehow tracked her down, and they've found her golf clubs being sold in a sports store somewhere in California. Her golf bag, they've opened up the golf bag, her LPGA player badge is still in there. All of her stuff's still in this golf bag. And the classic thing is they're selling her golf clubs for $60 a pop.
That is
extraordinary.
You can go and buy a piece of British Open history if you want in California golf stores. So anyway, they've returned, I think, about half of her set, but who knows what she's going to do with it now. So anyway.
That's amazing.
That's a great
bit
story.
Random.
That's a nightmare. That's a nightmare of mine. My putter's not being made anymore, so if I lose that thing, I'm in trouble.
Have you ever thought about getting someone to make a complete replica? Like get it weighed, get it shaped? Yep.
Well, because the one I've actually used, I put in the bag at the New South Wales Open last year. So
right.
It's on a good run at the moment.
Yeah.
But
for something like that, though.
It's a yes putter, and they don't make them anymore. So we're searching through eBay trying to find just another one just in case because...
I've got one at home. Might be the same. I'll bring it in next time I see you.
Sarah number 12? I think it's a Sierra number 12.
If you have a Sierra number 12, go and have a look in your garage
I'll
right
pay good
now.
money for
Anyone and help this lad out because he needs a backup set.
Yeah, if a nightmare like that happens where I lose my clubs, I'm in trouble.
Yeah. So they're not making those putters anymore.
Apparently not.
He's Mr. Yamamoto or whatever his name. He just stopped doing it.
I got no idea.
No, he's a legend. The bloke who was making the putters for the Japanese fella. He's a bit of a guru, I'm told. The guy who makes those putters. Yeah, no, that's all he does.
It's ironic because I've got a no putter.
Other bits and pieces before we wrap it up. The WGC World Match Play. I do love this event.
Absolutely.
The 4 groups of 16. Winner goes through to the knockout phase.
I can take or leave the group stage. I think that's. I'm all for the match play and all for the guys wanting to be there, but I think they've pandered to the
TV.
Well,
it's
a little bit of the TV and a little bit of the top end pros who feared getting knocked out in the first round and didn't want to travel for one day's golf, which I think's a bit.
How does the group stage actually work? Do they play two
Round
or three
robin.
matches and three matches, and then if you win 2, you get through or something,
and the other 3 go
like that.
Yep. And the 16 that get through from the groups play a knockout phase. So I don't mind it.
But it's the best, to me, outside the majors, is the best week in golf.
I love it. Absolutely. Speaking of formats that should change or shouldn't, news overnight, I believe, came out that the Olympic format for 2020 will remain unchanged. So we're going to continue. So that's you're obviously hearing this news for the first time. So a 72-hole individual stroke event will remain at the Olympic Games. Hazy?
Well, let's just play the most boring format of golf we've got, and let's not attract new people to it. And let's not have a mixed format, heaven forbid. I mean, seriously, I'll get in trouble with so many people on this show, but that is so short-sighted.
I don't disagree with that. I mean, it's a chance to do something a bit different, be more inclusive.
Just put Mark Leishman with Minjee Lee and have another medal available. You can win 14,000 medals at gymnastics. Why can't we have a third one for the golf?
You can keep it stroke play. Why don't you have a guy and a girl team, like you said, and then literally just have the best round of the 2 count?
There's so many ways to make it more interesting.
If you're stuck on stroke play and do 72 holes, then at least add something to the mix. Because the 72 holes, and I think Lucas would probably agree with me, is probably the best way to find, in my opinion, the best player of the week. 72 holes is a slog under that kind of pressure. And at least from the women's side and the men's side, last year, there was no one on those podiums that was...
No choppers.
That was a fluke.
No.
And so... From that regard, positive, but come on, there's ways to do it.
I'd agree with Hazy. Why isn't there more medals available? You can, Phelps has won 20 gold medals, something like that. You're never going to do that in golf. So is there another option of, there's a 4-ball event on the Friday, or I don't know.
So it's got to be. You know what? Chuck it up. There's no bad idea.
You can play a mixed Canadian foursomes on the Tuesday to warm up.
There's no bad idea. I reckon something that is unique to the Olympic Game. Again, it only happens once every 4 years. It's not like we're going to be asking the pros to play this thing 25 times a year.
No, it'll add to it. It won't detract from it if we have mixed Canadian foursomes.
Make it a proper team event. Yeah, you still have an individual component within it, but have the team event as well. Have the mixed team event as well. Have everybody in this thing together. That was
just. I think that is a British Open and a US Open for the men and women. That's the only thing that we can both win. Every other major is called something different, and. A gold medal is just so different to win. Anyway, it doesn't need to be this. It doesn't need to be the same format as every other tournament to win it.
To me, Andy, it's just golf is in there. One of the primary aspects of golf being in the Olympics is to broaden its market.
Of course.
So to reach new people. And I agree with Ali. It's the best format, 72 holes, to find the true winner of a grueling test. But it is not the most entertaining.
No.
And so those things conflict.
Rory, I'll just keep bowl. I've got 2 more things to bowl up before I'm done. Rory, time to limit alcohol sales on course. He was the subject of some mindless heckling about his wife on the Saturday, I think it was, at Bay Hill. Just stupid stuff, just dumb, mindless, stupid stuff. And there seems to be this growing push now that, particularly on the US tour, they're getting more and more blokes on course who are poleaxed. And they're just saying and doing stupid things. Now, I'm not sure anyone here's got a strong view on that, but the chances are that behaviour of spectators is going to be enhanced by reducing, the alcohol limit in beers being sold on course. Then I'm all for it. If they can't moderate their own behaviour, then moderate it for them. I say. Anyone got an issue with any of this?
I ditto what you just said.
I think the fans are quite different from Australia and Europe as opposed to America. I think they're more sporting fans in the US as opposed to in Australia. You definitely get golfing fans coming to watch golf. So, I don't know. I think definitely in Australia and Europe we seem to have a lot better behaviour from crowds. I'd never really obviously played in front of a huge crowd in America and had any heckling issues. But if those guys are, if it's getting personal, I think that definitely needs to be something done.
Here, couldn't agree with you more. We have a nominee this week for the Roger Bannister file.
Yeah, we do.
And it's not coming from us. It's coming from Eddie Pepperell.
Yeah, I saw that on Twitter.
You saw that?
Yeah.
Bryson DeChambeau.
And he's not not inaccurate.
So if I don't know whether you got one you want to put in, but the Memorial Roger Bannister file is for slow players. It took JB Holmes over 4 minutes to play a shot.
6 minutes.
That's right. It took Roger Bannister less than 4 minutes to break the mile, obviously. And we're putting people in. So we've got Kevin Nahr, Webb Simpson, JB Holmes, Beatrice Ricari is in there. She's in. And now Bryson DeChambeau. Thank you, courtesy Eddie Pepperell, goes in this week.
Anyone you want to add, Lucas?
No, I've got no one to throw under the bus there, I don't think.
Ali?
I mean, there's a couple of walking rain delays on the women's side, as they're referred to. But I'm going to wait until the next time.
That's a good name.
They come up on screen. We start the watch.
All right.
on
Well,
them.
we need you to nominate someone, all right? Because Hazy and I put a couple in. You put in Kevin Nahr. I whacked in Kevin Nahr. You whacked in.
It's interesting that Kevin Nahr's in there because I think he set the record for the fastest round in a one ball in the Tour Championship last year.
Well, there you go. He can do it quickly.
So it's
ridiculous.
interesting. It's in there. I'll flick through some anonymously.
Right.
I think.
Okay, we won't put your name into. Anyone got any other general business before we wrap it up?
Just quickly, great starts for Ryan Ruffles and Harrison Endicott in particular in Guatemala on the Latino America Tour. Some really good results in China in both our man who we'll talk to again soon, Bryden McPherson, did really well in the China series, not the China PGA Tour. It's very complicated. Kevin Yuan did really well in the first China PGA Tour. It's a great start for him. As Ali mentioned earlier on the Golf Australia website, there's 8 others and Lucas who have been announced as rookie squad scholarship holders. Fantastic achievement by them all. And just wish them all the well because we've actually got guys and girls spread all around the world now, including Karis Davidson in Japan. We've got to keep a close eye on her this year because that's sort of off the grid a fair bit, Ali.
Yeah, well, speaking of off the grid as well, little cheeky shout out to Julianne Sue, who's over at the University of Oklahoma. She won a second event and ended up leading the team to a victory this past weekend as well. So I think she eagled the last hole maybe to get it done. I want to say maybe chipped in or something like that. There's no footage of it. I couldn't find out how she got the job done. But yeah, second wind over in college in the US.
Don't forget, you can subscribe to Inside the Ropes on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from. We love our listeners, Hazy, particularly if you rate the show on iTunes, particularly if you give it a 4, 4.5, or 5-star review.
No, 5.
5, yeah, but we don't want to put that much pressure on it. They just want to take a bit off.
It's like Uber, isn't it? 5-star rating every time.
It's like that. It's,
and our promise here from Decob 1. I'm not sure if you've got all your oars in the water, Decob, because you've given us respect, which we've never heard before. So. Great work, guys. Heaps of respect to all of you involved. I mean, that's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to Inside the Ropes crew. So thank you very much, Decob. Andy, if you don't mind, we mentioned a bit of My Golf stuff.
No, go your hardest. Yep.
My Golf is the combined program for 5 to 12-year-old kids around Australia by the Golf Australia and the PGA, going absolutely great guns. Over 10,000 young kids for the first time in a year, starting July 1. So we've actually got another 3 or 4 months here to set the record that was way above expectation. So fantastic result. Congratulations to all the kids involved. At the moment, the My Golf Junior League has commenced to bring a team aspect to the sport, and 2-ball Ambrose is the format with the kids loving that concept. So to talk about these things with Olympics and everything, now we can actually get out for the kids and actually get a chance to play something different. So that's fantastic. The Whaleback Golf Course, which is just south of Perth, was awarded the My Golf Centre of the Month in February. So congratulations to everyone over there.
Yeah, good work, guys.
Fantastic. And Christopher Fry, who's a young guy up in Cairns, up near Cairns. He plays his golf at Half Moon Bay, and he's the February My Golfer of the Month. I haven't met you, Christopher, but I understand you've got mild cerebral palsy. I also understand from his coaches that this guy is a little jet. He does everything just absolutely beautifully, is improving hand over fist, and huge shout out to you, Christopher. Well done, mate, and the whole of Australia congratulate you.
Good on you. We're done. Good to see you, Ellie Whitaker.
Great to see you guys.
Lovely to see you, Hazy. Almost clean shaven. I don't know what's happened there. Just a little bit of designer stubble going on.
No, it's
a long story, obviously. Lucas, joy to have you in the studio, mate. Good to see you proudly wearing your Western Bulldogs 2016 wind cheater. May they improve for you in 2017. 18.
Couple of early long-term injuries hasn't really helped us.
Poor
I don't
Liam
think.
Pick, and that's a real worry, isn't it?
And
But,
Marcus Adams, that's really going to hurt down back. So, yeah, I'll support hard, but
2016
I'm
wasn't
optimistic.
it wasn't that long ago, mate. You can still bask in the
We can
glory
miss
of that.
we can miss the finals for the next 8 years, and I'm pretty happy we won. I didn't think I was going to see us win one. So
Well, you have, and you didn't have to wait that long.
Correct.
Thanks for coming in. Thanks for being part of the show. Thanks to all the byplay between the key members of the Inside the Ropes teams and yourself on the way through. It gives us great fodder, and
Thanks,
we
boys.
love the fact that you're prepared to engage in some of the big issues in the game. Keep doing it.
Thanks, mate. I'm
Good
happy
on
to
you.
come in here whenever you want.
No, we'll have you in again. Don't worry about that. Lucas Herbert with a huge, good Lord, a huge, after the stated ambition of December 2019, this is a very big year and a half in front of that young man. We appreciate you coming in and wish you all the very best. Thanks for tuning in, folks. This has been Inside the Ropes. We'll do it all again next week.